Nice introduction. I'm Amlindu Ghosh and I work in the area of virus vector relationship, specifically the whitefly and begum viruses and thrips and tospoviruses. So I was told to talk about the relationship of thrips and tospoviruses, how to diagnose them, how to handle them, and little bit about the present understanding and how they are invading in the vector system and what will be the future thrust for this type of research area. So before coming in the main context, let us come that vector. So we all know about the vector. So they are the living organism that is carrying the virus from a infected host to a healthy host. Okay, and majority of them are insects. So wherever we are discussing in this topic about vector, those are the vector of plant viruses only. So majority of them are insects like tree hopper, plant hopper, leaf hopper, white flies, aphids. Then other than the hemipteran order, the insects like thrips and mealybugs are there that transmit the plant viruses. Other than the sucking insects, there are few chewing insects like chrysomelid beetle and epilacna beetle which transmit specific plant viruses. So other than the insects, there are few mites, nematodes and even the fungi that can transmit the economic plant viruses. So now this is a schematic diagram of vector pathway or vector position in the virus position in the vector system. So if you see the schematic diagram, the insect alimentary canal is broadly divided into three regions. First region is the foregut, then the middle region we term them as midgut, and then the hindgut. And the alimentary canal starts with the proboscis. So within the proboscis there are stylets. So you can see few virus which are restricted within the stylet, the red particle, and few more other virus which can move forward from the stylet and they can travel up to the foregut, but they cannot cross the foregut and midgut barrier. But unlike other viruses which can invade the midgut, and from the midgut it travels through the hemolymph or hemocoel and then reach the salivary gland, and from the salivary gland it again coming out from the through the stylet to infect a healthy host during the process of feeding. Okay. So based on their retention site in the insect's vector, the plant viruses are broadly classified in four major categories. So first category is the non-persistent type, where I said they are restricted within the foregut. So we also term them as foregut borne virus. Stylet borne virus. They are restricted within the stylet. Then the next category is the foregut borne virus or semi-persistent, and then the viruses that I told that invades the midgut, and from the midgut they are circulated within the vector system and coming to the salivary gland. So best example is the begum virus transmission by whitefly. We say them the persistent circulative type of plant viruses. Now if the plant virus propagate within the insect vector, we term them persistent propagative virus. That is the tospovirus transmission by thrips is the example. Now coming to the thrips as a vector of tospoviruses, till date around 7,700 species of thrips are available, but we are very lucky that only 1% of them are agricultural pest, and again a very few number. So far till date it is 15 thrips species only. That record is telling only 15 thrips species, those are experimentally shown to transmit the 22 tospoviruses. There are records of 29 tospoviruses as per the latest ICTV worksheet, but for the few tospoviruses like bean necrotic mosaic virus and others, where the transmission is still unknown, vector is still unknown. Now out of these 15 thrips species, two species are very predominant. One is the Frankinella occidentalis and the next is Thrips palmi. So Frankinella occidentalis that transmit more than 5 tospoviruses, whereas Thrips palmi transmit, the latest report is 7 tospoviruses. Okay. And this Frankinella occidentalis that is predominant in the American nation, then Europe, Middle East and Australia, whereas Thrips palmi is predominant only in the Asian countries. If you see the tospovirus distribution worldwide, here we will see in the Asia, CACB, GBNB and the WBNB, these are the predominant tospoviruses which all are transmitted by Thrips palmi, as because all these Thrips palmi are all these tospovirus species transmitted by Thrips palmi, they are predominant in Asia, because Thrips palmi is predominant in Asian countries and they can only transmit these tospoviruses. So this is the Indian scenario. In India, groundnut bud necrosis virus, watermelon bud necrosis virus, iris yellow spot virus, capsicum chlorosis virus, and another one is the PYSV, the limited distribution is there, peanut yellow spot virus or groundnut yellow spot virus, whatever you are saying. And recently there are report of TSWV, tomato spotted wilt virus. Just 2 years back, that was the first report from India, but still its economic significance in Indian agriculture and its distribution is yet to studied. So we can consider 5 predominant tospoviruses in India, and among these 5 tospoviruses you can see I said GVNB and WBNB, they are causing the major economic damage in Indian agriculture, and this is evident by their economic loss data. Whereas CACB, IDC yellow spot and peanut yellow spot, they have limited significance in Indian agriculture, and the monetary losses of these viruses in Indian agriculture is yet to be determined. Now coming to the insect vectors present in India. So far 4 insect vectors are reported from India. They are Thrips palmi, Thrips tabaci, Frankinella sulci, and the recent addition is the Frankinella occidentalis. But still again I am saying this is the new report coming from India that Frankinella occidentalis due to some quarantine failure introduced in India, but still it is thought to be restricted within a province of India, and its role in transmission of tospovirus under Indian condition and its geographical distribution in India is yet to be studied. So we can broadly say 4 predominant tospovirus. Yeah, another I marked in red, that is the Ceratothripsoides claritis. One literature from India that reports this vector is transmitting CACV in India, but the original article says this is the report from Malaysia. So we should not consider this as an vector transmitting tospoviruses in India. So now the problem is that these 4 Thrips species, they can come in a complex. Sometimes in a plant you may get 2, 3, maybe up to 4 tospovirus vector or Thrips vector harboring a same host. So it is very difficult, or it is very important to identify the correct Thrips species, not only for the virus vector experimentation, also to understand the epidemiology of Thrips and disease, and also to restrict the spread of the tospoviruses. So in our lab, first we designed a multiplex PCR for the first time, where all the Thrips species can be determined within a single reaction. We are using a specific cocktail primer, and that can discriminate all the Thrips species together, even they are present in a mixed population. Now what is the present understanding on Thrips tospovirus relationship? So before coming to the interaction part, so just have a look. This is for many of you, you might not be seen the Thrips, how does it looks. This is the adult female Thrips, and they are easily identified based on their fringed wing pattern. And their prothorax is movable, whereas metathorax and mesothorax are fused together. Abdominal segments is around 11 segments, but the initial distal and proximal segments are fused. And how to differentiate the male and female sexes? by the genitalia. So female has a saw-like genitalia. So at the tip of the abdomen, if you see a sharp ovipositor is there, so that is the female. And in case of male, the abdomen, tip of the abdomen is blunt shaped. So by that way, you can easily identify at the thrips level whether this is a male morph or a female morph. In the life cycle, most of the thrips species, they with their sharp ovipositor, female laid their eggs within the plant tissue. So 95% of the egg portion of the eggs is inserted within the plant tissue, and egg size is around you can say around 300 to 400 micron. So that is very minute and inserted within the plant tissue. So with naked eyes you cannot see the thrips eggs. Okay, but whenever they are hatching, the first instar larva they are coming, so those are visible. They are also very minute, but those are visible, feeding voraciously, feeding or scraping on the leaf surface. And after the first instar larvae, there will be the second instar stage, and after second instar larvae, there are two inactive stage. We call them prepupa and pupa. And after these two inactive stage, there is the adult. Adult is again a active stage. Now, thrips reproduce through a haplodiploid reproduction, we said. That means haploid, if that is a haploid, then the male will produce, and if that is diploid reproduction, then the female will produce. That is the unique feature of thrips reproduction. And there are Archaeotoci and Thelytoci also reported from thrips. And this sex ratio and rate of reproduction are influenced highly by the temperature, symbiotic organism present within their body, and different biotic factors. And these are the embryogenesis of thrips. So I was saying that thrips insert their eggs within the plant tissue. So we have a special apparatus. So we mimic the condition of the plant tissue, and the thrips are now laying eggs on an artificial system of artificial ovipositing setup. From that artificial system, you can collect the intact eggs, and this egg can be studied for the any virology or morphogenesis or embryological work. So these are the pictures of different stages of thrips. This you can see, this is the 6-hour stage, and gradually their bastodome form, germ bed is forming, and here in this phase glastulation is occurring, and at 72 hours the division of the body and compound eyes, abdomen are quite visible, and at 78 hours the appendages are quite visible, the thoracic legs are coming out on the upside, and 84 hours it is quite prominent, all the abdominal segments and thoracic segments are prominent, and around 86 hours they hatched. Okay, so there is a operculum in the anterior part, so they open the operculum and come out of the, rupture that operculum and come out of the eggs. So this is at 86 hours they will take from oviposition of the egg to the hatching at around 28 degrees centigrade. So you can understand within a few days they will hatch, and the first instar larvae going to the second instar within a single day, within 1 day. And this is very phenomenal in virus vector research, because this first instar larva, they are very much crucial for acquisition of the virus. So if you miss the first instar stage, that first day, 24 hours, if you missed immediately after hatching, then you will not get any transmission. So that's why the life history and the biological traits of the thrips is very much important for undertaking any virus vector research. So that is the life cycle I have shown, already described before. And how to differentiate? The larvae are very minute. They are cream in nature. Sometimes they are transparent in color, and it is very difficult for a beginner to differentiate the first instar larvae and second instar larvae. The only difference is they are bigger in size, but if you are handling for the first time, it is very difficult which you will consider as bigger and which we will consider as the smaller. The another feature we observed, you can identify in the larval stage 1, the sclerotization of their skin is less. So you can see a green line moving through the medial part of the body, that is the alimentary canal. So by that nature you can easily identify. So if the green line is visible, then this is the first instar larva. But immediately after 1 molt, their sclerotization occur. So here in the second instar larvae you cannot see the green line. And the difference between larva and pupa, in the pupa you will see the wing bud, that is the immature wing. Okay, by seeing the wing bud you can differentiate the larva and the pupa. And whereas in the adult, adults are quite different than the other instar. So here you will see the well developed compound eyes, ovipositors, and the wings, fringed wings. So now transmission by thrips. The adults are only the dispersing stage. I said the pupa are the inactive, so they are not moving. Larvae are active, but they only crawl. Okay. Excuse me. So for virus transmission point of view, adults are only the dispersing agent, and they transmit the tossovirus, as I said earlier also, in a persistent and propagative manner. Propagative means that virus is replicating, tossovirus is replicating within the thrips body. And the virus transmission, this involves 3 phases. First phase is the acquisition, then internalization of the virus in the thrips, and thereby inoculation. So once the adult thrips become viviparous, it remains so throughout its life. So means once they take up the virus, they can transmit, the adult can transmit the virus lifelong. But there is no transovarial transmission. So in the next instant, again the acquisition should take place. So now again I am describing one characteristic feature in tossovirus transmission by thrips. They are the life stages of thrips. As I said, there is no transovarial transmission. So so the egg does not carry any virus, and pupa are the inactive stage. So there is no either acquisition or inoculation because they are non-feeding stage. So they cannot either acquire or transmit the virus. Now the active stage are only adults and 2 larval instars. So now interesting feature is that adult can only transmit the virus if virus acquisition takes place during the first instar larvae. Okay. So that is the interesting feature. They can feed on the virus will go inside. Even you are doing a PCR, you will get virus positive. Even for the pupa also you will get virus positive, but as they are non-feeding, they cannot transmit. Even for the second instar larvae, this is specifically for Thys spermia I am talking. In case of Franklinella occidentalis, experimental evidence is there that early second instar can also transmit the virus, but in case of Thys spermia, we have not recorded any transmission by the second instar larvae. But as they are feeding, the virus is going inside. You will get positive RT-PCR reaction also if you are detecting the tossovirus within the thrips vector, but there will be no transmission by the adults. So what is the reason? The reason is the barrier. So that barrier is there. That barrier starts from the second instar larvae. So if the virus acquisition takes place during the first instar larvae, then the adult will become viviparous. If by the later instar, even the adult can also acquire the virus, but they cannot transmit if they acquire during adult stage only. Okay, so a barrier comes from the larval instar 2 onwards, so virus cannot move in the salivary gland. So where is the experimental evidence? There is one experimental evidence with the Franklinella occidentalis. Here you can see in the first instar larval stage or in the early instar larval stages, the principal salivary gland, the head capsule is very small that time, and all the body organelles are placed compact. So in that phase, the principal salivary gland of the thrips is coming out of the head capsule and touching the anterior midgut region. So there is a physical attachment of the salivary gland and the anterior midgut portion. And unlike in the other persistent circulative or persistent propagative type of transmission, there is no evidence of tossovirus going in the hemolymph. So virus is coming to the midgut, that is clear. So you can get a, if you have an antibody, fluorescent antibody, you will see the fluorescence in the midgut region, but there is no virus going to the hemocoel or hemolymph. So how it coming to the salivary gland? So there is an alternative route. So that alternative route is the through the physical attachment or physical connection of the principal salivary gland with the anterior portion of the midgut. So virus takes that path and reach the salivary gland. So this physical attachment only present during the early install larval phase. Why not in the later install larval stage or in the adult phase? Because as the thrips is growing, their head capsule is also growing in size, and with the more space, they reorient in their original place. And during the later phase, there is no physical attachment with the principal salivary gland with the midgut, anterior portion of the midgut. So the travel path of the virus is broken. So that's why they can acquire the virus. Virus can reach up to the midgut, but it cannot travel to the salivary gland. And as it is not traveling to the reaching the salivary gland, the virus cannot come out when they are feeding on a healthy host. Okay, that's why you will get a positive RT-PCR reaction for tossovirus in thrips. But if you are doing a biological transmission, there will be no transmission if the feeding takes place in the later instar or adult stage. Okay, clear? So now you can understand the life cycle or the first instar larva that I say only the duration is 24 hours at 28 degrees room temperature. So if you miss the first 24 hours, you will get a zero transmission. Now coming to the mouth parts of thrips, mouth parts are also very unique. So only in the thrips, the mouth parts are asymmetrical. Why asymmetrical I am saying? Because their right mandible is absent. So they only have the left mandible, and in Hemiptera you might have gone the mouth parts modification in the Hemiptera. They have two maxillary stylet and two mandibular stylet. The maxillary stylet are held together in case of Hemiptera and form a food canal. Besides food canal, the same maxillary stylet, they form a separate salivary canal. Okay, but in case of the thrips, the only one mandibular stylet is there, that is used for initial scraping of the cells, and the two maxillary stylet, they held together and form a single tube that contains the food canal, and there is no separate salivary canal. Okay, if there is no salivary canal, then saliva cannot come out, and if saliva is not coming out, virus is also not coming out, because virus is coming from the salivary gland and through the saliva during the feeding process. So in case of thrips, the feeding and the salivation, that alternates. So saliva comes out using the same channel that travels used for acquisition of the food, okay, taking food. So food canal is also used for salivary canal, but the feeding process and the salivation alternates. When there is a salivation, there will be no feeding, and when there is feeding, there will be no salivation. So as I saying, the mandibular stylet that pairs the lips tissue and make the initial opening for the maxillary stylet, and the maxillary stylets move deeper in the tissue and used for sucking the sap and also to release the saliva. And due to their vigorous feeding, a silvery appearance on the lip you can see. So this is the symptom in the lip, and this silver or powdery appearance is due to the whitish appearance. There is not powdery, there is whitish appearance, that is due to the feeding of the thrips, but with the time it will gradually dry up and it will take a brown color. So now the feeding process, I said maxillary stylet and the mandibular stylet. So with these stylets, they do the feeding and salivation, and there are three types of feeding. One is the non-ingestion, another is the short ingestion, and another is the long ingestion. In the non-ingestion, it has been experimentally proved the salivation occurs more during the non-ingestion feeding, okay, where the stylet do not move deeper in the plant tissue. Apparently looking that virus transmission will take place where the stylet is moving deeper, but it is just opposite. The transmission will be more in case of thrips where there is a non-ingestion or shallow probing. Why? Because in case of the deep penetration, they vigorously feed and they empty all the cell content. So virus has no cell left there to replicate and multiply. Okay, but in case of the non-ingestion feeding, the first advantage is more salivation. So with the saliva, more virus particles are coming out of the vector, and the second advantage is that the cells are not exhausted. So the virus particle get some living cell where they can multiply. Okay, so therefore this is the reason in case of the non-ingestion feeding or shallow probing, the virus transmission of thrips is more. Now coming to the sex determined transmission, this is also experimentally shown that male are the better transmitter. In case of whitefly begonia, you will find some literature are telling that female are the better transmitter than the male, but it is opposite in case of the thrips. In case of thrips, male are the better transmitter than the female. Why? Because male does more non-ingestion probing. As they are doing more non-ingestion probing, they can transmit. The chances of transmitting the virus is more in case of male than the female. Now, I think somebody has covered the virus, how does it multiply in the host plant, and during the process of multiplication, it's actually it thrusts a negative effect on the host plant. But what is their effect on the vector? Because in case of the tossoviruses, that propagates within the thrips vector. So there are several evidence that effect of tossovirus on thrips may be positive. Positive means due to the acquisition of the virus, their oviposition is highly increased in case of Frankinella fusca, and there is few more example where people have shown that multiplication of the tossovirus TSWB and Frankinella occidentalis is detrimental to Frankinella occidentalis. And also there are evidence where people experimentally demonstrate there is no effect at all. In case of thrips and GBNB and WBNB, our finding is there is a negative effect. So if the thrips sperm is carrying WBNB and GBNB within its system, then the virus negatively affects the biological traits of the thrips. Biological traits means their oviposition will be largely decreased, their survivability also decreased from the pupal emergence to adult stage, and the male and female longevity, the adult longevity also decreased, and this may be due to the one of the possible reason is the multiplication of the virus, that using the thrips essential pathway that regulates defined physiological process of the thrips. So due to the multiplication of the GBNB and WBNB within the thrips system, there may be some negative effect on the thrips physiology. And there are also host influence. You can see brinjal, few of the hosts we have trialed, evaluated. There are around 280 hosts are reported so far for thrips sperming. Some of them we have tested, including some experimental hosts, that brinjal and cotton are the rapid reproduction and growth occurs if you rear the thrips spermie on brinjal and cotton. Similarly, the virus also induces some modification in the host plant that affects the physiology of the vector. Now coming to the interaction part. So before in the interaction part, virus surface protein actually interacting with the vector. In case of the tossovirus, in the surface, you know the tossovirus is a tripartite genome, and they have a ambiscence pattern of their genome, and in the there are three particles, as I said, long, large, medium and small. In the medium, that actually is transcripted to the glycoprotein, and there are two type of glycoprotein, GN and GC. The N terminal we are term them GN, and the C terminal we term them GC. Okay, so these glycoprotein are actually embedded in the outer surface of the tospovirus. And if you see the virus groups other than tospovirus from the Buniavirales order, if you see the flevovirus, then orthobunia virus, hantavirus, and the norovirus, only in the tospovirus there is the ambiscens genome for the medium segment. And in some of the cases you can say the NSM that is originating in between the GN and GC. Okay, but in case of tospovirus, GN and GC, they synthesized as a single glycoprotein first. We said that are precursor glycoprotein. Even in the precursor glycoprotein, some experimental evidence is in the Hunter virus, that is also one group of virus under order Buniavirales, the same order where the tospovirus belongs. So in Hunter virus, other than GN and GC, there is one small region that is called signal peptide. Okay. So there is a specific role in the signal peptide that helps the virus or helps the immature glycoprotein to become matured. And in case of GBNB, we tried whether there is any this signal peptide is present in there or not. So this is the 1121 the amino acid. This is the amino acid sequence of that is the amino acid sequence of GBNB, precursor glycoprotein. In the precursor glycoprotein, in the analysis you can see there is a cleavage in the 24 that is predicting one cleavage at amino acid between 24 and 25. So this 1 to 24 is actually the signal peptide, okay, and there is another cleavage, it will take time, at around 450 where the GN separates from the GC, and this cleavage site is very much unique and conserved within the GBNB and both GBNB and WBNB, but that is unlike in the TSWV. Sorry, 1 minute. Open it, I will take. Yep. So I was saying in 433 to 34 there is another cleavage, and after this cleavage the GN and GC matures. So we will get two separate protein, the N terminal will produce the GN and the C terminal will produce the GC. And there are several glycosylation sites which helps in the virus internalization within the vector system, and there is also some fusion peptide specifically in the GC part which helps the virus particle to fuse in the vector cytosol. So now, as I was telling, the glycoprotein is the first which interact with the vector surface. In the vector surface also there are several protein, but in general they are GN protein first directly binds with the epithelial cell, midgut epithelial cell of the thrips. If you mutate, how do you experimentally prove that glycoprotein is interacting with the vector factors? So if you mutate the glycoprotein, only the glycoprotein part of the tospovirus, you will find the virus isolate will become a non-transmissible isolate. That means only the glycoprotein is a crucial part which plays a role for picking up by the vector. And there are some other evidence also. So people few scientists they developed one tomato line which expressing transgenic tomato line which is expressing the virus GN protein. If the plant is expressing the GN protein, when the vector is feeding on that transgenic plant, they have less capability of transmission or acquisition of the tossoviruses. Similar way, if you feed them soluble glycoprotein or even if you feed them the GN, soluble GN to thrips, their transmission ability is losing. That indicates that GN is the principal component which is playing a critical role for virus uptake by the thrips. Now, what are the thrips factor? So far with the advent of high throughput sequencing techniques, in case of TSWV and Frankinella occidentalis interaction, proteins like cyclophilin, enolase, cuticular protein, then endocutical structural protein, mitochondrial ATP synthase alpha subunit, then clathrin aminopeptidase and cathepsin. These are some of the proteins which are identified, which are interacting with the TSWV glycoprotein and help in the internalization of the virus particle in the vector system. There are some other examples other than tossoviruses in the Bunyavirales family. There are C-type lectin and non-muscular myosin and beta integrins were identified, which are the act as a receptor factor for transmission or internalization of the virus particle. So now, how do the virus particle or tossovirus particle invade within the thrips cell? So there is no experimental evidence in case of the tossovirus, but it is speculated that they follow the same pathway like other Bunyavirales virus under the order Bunyavirales. So there are three major way how the Bunyaviruses are going or invading the host cell. So one is the macropinocytosis, then the clathrin mediated endocytosis, then clavular mediated endocytosis, and there are some other pathway also. In case of macropinocytosis, the virus like Oropouche, they follow the macropinocytosis process. In case of macropinocytosis process, the first is the receptor recruitment in the plasma membrane, and they form a receptor rich microdomain in the plasma membrane of the vector, and then the local plasma membrane make a curvature, and through there the receptor mediated signal transduction occurring. And C-type lectin like DC sign and L sign, they take a very important role in this type of receptor mediated endocytosis. Whereas in clathrin mediated endocytosis, for TSWV and GBNB, it is speculated that they are following a clathrin mediated endocytosis way, where the receptor first bind with the adapter protein, and adapter protein again catch the clathrin which are present in the cytosol, and after this attachment they form a clathrin coated vesicle in the plasma membrane, and this vesicle detach and form a coated vesicle in the cytosol. And after forming that coated vesicle, they release the adapter protein and clathrin, and this can make a cycle. This can again be reused, and this coated vesicle then form or fuse in the early endosome. In case of clavular endocytosis, the same way is followed, but here the endocytic vesicle is formed by a caveolin rich microdomain, and after that they form endocytic vesicle and going to the early endosome. So after forming the early endosome, in the cytosol they are moving to the intraluminal vesicle, and in the intraluminal vesicle after that they form a late endosome, and in the late endosome the GC, specifically the GC part, they have fusion peptide, so they undergo repeated and multiple conformational changes, and they form some fusion pore here, and through this fusion pore they are released in the cytosol. Okay. So GC is the crucial part in the virus fusion in the vector cell, and for this process acidification is the must. If there is no acidification, then this process is not triggered. Yeah, there is some other way to describe this protein function in the virus vector interaction. So first way is the Thrips cell culture. So that is the in vitro system we have developed. Earlier I developed with Frankinella occidentalis. Now in our lab we developed a cell culture for Thrips palmi. So using that in vitro system, the cell culture is very much important to multiply the virus or have an in vitro system for experimentation with the tospoviruses. So using this in vitro system, you only need the protein antibody, viral protein antibody, and also if you understand the protein function of the insects, you need the specific antibody specific to that insect protein. So with help of the antibodies, you can use the in vitro system and study the gene function, different viral gene function as well as insect gene function in virus vector interaction. Now with the advent of the high throughput sequencing, now more information are coming, like full genome of Frankinella occidentalis is now available, and also full genome of Thrips palmi is underway, and there are several transcriptome data is available, specifically Frankinella occidentalis, Frankinella fusca and Thrips palmi. And with this transcriptome data, it is very easy now to predict the protein, insect protein and the viral protein which are interacting together. But still, I say it's not a sufficient database. There are several predominant other tospovirus and vector system, Thrips system, which are not or which are less studied. So for a better understanding, we should utilize the high throughput sequencing technique to generate more data in the other tospovirus and vector system. Most of the studies are basically on Frankinella occidentalis and TSWV, but very less studied occurred in the GBNB, WBNB, Thrips palmi, or even in the CACB, then in the Irish yellow spot, very less studied. Specifically, the virus and vector system which are predominant in the Indian context, they are very poorly studied. So for a better knowledge in our system, we should go for more whole genome sequencing and developing more transcriptome data and comparative transcriptomics to get a better idea of virus vector interaction. So these will be future thrust. As I said, most of the studies are on the TSWV and Frankinella occidentalis, and very limited work in the other predominant tospovirus Thrips system. So we should go for generating data on the other system. We don't know whether they are following the same way like TSWV or it's a different way with the GBNB and WBNB. Yeah, also the major lacuna is the reverse genetic system. For tospovirus, we don't have any infectious clone, and we also have no in vitro assay platform. We don't have any permanent Thrips cell line that can be purchased from market and do your in vitro assay. Although some primary cell culture are available, like us in other group working on virus vector interaction, they also have some Thrips primary cell culture, but the other gap is the antibodies. The specific antibodies for the viral protein and insect proteins, for all the viral protein and insect protein, those are not available. And also misidentification is the common feature in any virus vector interaction, and there are evidences where scientists undertook a virus vector relationship work and came to a conclusion, but due to the misidentification, the whole result later on was highly debatable. There are cryptic species in Thrips. Even for all the vector species you can see in occidentalis, 2 cryptic species are reported. In dorsalis, 9 cryptic species are reported. Tavasi 3, Frankinella sulji 3, Thrips palmi earlier 2 reported. Recently we published another article where we have shown that in Thrips palmi there is a chances of getting 4 cryptic species in Thrips palmi. So this present of these cryptic species means they are morphologically look alike, but genome wise they are different. So the presence of such cryptic species make the thing more complex in case of virus vector interaction. Yeah, as I said, we should generate more data for identification of potential gene targets for thrips so that we can interrupt the virus transmission of the thrips, and we should work on the transient delivery system of the RNA and new technique like CRISPR-Cas9 system technique for interrupting the virus vector interaction in thrips and even maybe in the tossovirus also. So this is brief overall scenario of the recent tossovirus and thrips research and some glimpses of our own work. So if you have more interest, you can visit our laboratory and interact with the students. I am also available at the upstairs. So you are free to come and discuss. Thank you for your time. And if you have any question, we can discuss here also.
If you have any queries, you can ask. Yes, please.
Infection of infestation of thrips. So how to know that it is only by thrips infestation? The symptom, the difference between the symptoms of when thrips alone infest the crop, and if it if it is infected with the virus, and is there any symptom difference in the symptom?
Yeah, thrips feeding, one I saw that will be a silvering appearance will be there, but everywhere and for every thrips species or every host you will not see the same symptom. The symptom varies with the host and the thrips combination. Okay, so in most of the cases, like in brinjal, it is quite prominent. In other leafy vegetable also infestation of thrips is very prominent. Like in onion, you can easily identify whether this is thrips damage or not. But the confusion might be you are referring from your question, it looks like you are referring chili.
Chili thrips, yes.
Yeah. So in chili, basically the leaf curl is there. And there is a complex system. The leaf curl is also caused by some leaf curl virus, tomato leaf curl New Delhi or Bangalore virus, then chili leaf curl virus is also there. And also there are mites which also induce curling of leaf. But if you critically go through the symptom, there is a specific difference among the three type of feeding. So if I consider virus, then mite and thrips. In case of mite, mostly, it's not universal, mostly there will be a boat-shaped downward curling. Okay, and the petiole is a little bit longer than the non-infested. Okay, so by that symptom with a long petiole and downward curling of the leaf, you can identify this is a mite infestation. But there may be presence of thrips also, but majority that symptom signifies mite infestation. Now, in case of thrips, that is the marginal curling you will see in chili. Okay, on the margin it is little bit curved, and thrips inhabits the down surface of the leaf, and the best way to know whether there is a thrips or not, just have a white paper and jerk the twig. You will see the thrips are coming and running in between. Yeah, and virus for virus curling, you will see the interveinal chlorosis will be there, and there will be a curling of leaves, and that will be irregular curling of the leaf lamina. Okay, and these three symptoms can easily be identified at field condition, but there may be a mixed of symptom. In most of the cases, viral symptom and thrips curling comes together. There may be both symptom present. There may be a symptom that arise from virus infection and thrips feeding also. But the basic feature in thrips, you will see marginal curling and
inward or outward, means marginal curling
inward. Okay.
Inward.
Okay, like on the
Outside inward.
also, if you have confusion, you can visit our lab.
Yes,
okay, In
How?
lab, we can show you or in the field also, the chili crop is there, just behind field. So there you can be easily demonstrated what are the specific symptoms. Okay.
Yes.
Sir, can you relate the stage of the crop and life cycle of a thrips?
Difficult to relate because these thrips, most of the thrips species are polyphagous. So even they can come in your crop a little late, or maybe at the just start with the germination. So there is no clear-cut relation of thrips life stages with the crop stages.
Like
Okay, but it may varies from one place or one plot to another plot. It depends on when you are planting and when the thrips are coming. And there are overlapping generations also. So it's very difficult. You will get adult, you will get nymph also. Okay, because life cycle is very short. Life cycle, if at 28 or 30-degree temperature, life cycle is around 20 days. Okay, so the crop period is 3 months or 4 months. So there will be overlapping generation.
Sir, in case of tomato, I used to see this GBNE infection before the flowering stage, and like it may not be correct also, but after the flowering stage, the spread of the disease seems to be reduced.
It's not like that. If the infestation is occurring at the flowering stage,
Yeah.
then there is less symptom expression. That is also our observation. But the virus infection, if it occurs in the very early stage, then symptom will be prominent, and
Yeah,
there
so
will be
that's what
detrimental effect on the crop growth also.
Yeah, before that flowering stage, we can.
What is the
locate,
temperature?
like temperature, like in summer only.
Yeah,
sir.
tossovirus expression like GBNB expression is highly dependent on temperature. The virus is there, but the symptom expression is variable with the temperature.
Sir, if we want to study about that vector
Hmm.
in relationship with this virus,
Hmm.
how we have to take observations, sir? Like at what intervals we
No,
have
you
to take?
means virus vector study is the broad area. In which area you are speaking?
Like virus
Occurrence
vector
in the field?
population
In occurrence in the
relations
field?
with the incidence of the virus.
So you can record starting from your germination, starting from the planting. You can start observing the population of thrips are coming, and the initial inoculum. You will find out when they are coming first time in the field and how they are spreading. And also you will have data that in the population, out of the a catch in the population, the percent of the portion which are carrying the virus and the percent of the portion which are free from any virus. Okay.
And in my observation, I have seen the plants near like border, they are more infected than the crops interior. Is there any relationship
Yeah,
with that?
yeah, there is relationship because thrips are not very. They make short flight. Okay, so if your inoculum is in the nearby plot or in the nearby alternate host or in the weed, they first infect the border crop. Okay, so that will be the primary inoculum. Therefore, they will spread. The secondary spread will be there.
Any other questions? No? Okay, but you are always most welcome. You can come anytime. You can meet for any of your query clarification. You can see the facilities established by Dr. Ghosh. No? Such a nice facility. I told you, thrips very in India. You will find very hardly 1-2 places where people we have the best facility available, and he is the master. No, he is handling 2 important projects also. So thank you, Dr. Ghosh, for delivering such an informative talk on thrips, which is very important source of transmission of most important serious damaging viruses of many crops in your toad. And since we have started earlier, it's more than 50 years history of thrips and related viruses. But now his entire group is focusing, you told, major thrips is they are culturing, and then the mode of transmission, mechanism of transmission. So in future we have more clear-cut idea how to manage it. No? So thank you, Dr. Ghosh, again for
Welcome,
very
sir.
important.
And this was probably the last
then that
last
is
class of the training.
that is the last, but I told you, it's the most important. And I
So all are they
definitely-
happy? They will return home
yes,
and
yes,
celebrate
after
Diwali,
all
huh?
the- And I must hope you now you have a better idea of understanding thrips, no? Because of little, he has already explained the morphology, life cycle, and different diseases. So yeah, definitely you have a better idea of thrips. So thank you all for attending this lecture. And just a token of appreciation and love from NHE program, that's a
Thank
you
you,
are
sir.
just welcome. Just a good big hand for very informative that talk, that's all. And then I think we'll break for tea, and then followed by validity function. Is there any other program? Any other announcement?
All your feedback will be required. So I will give you one sheet. You have to give your feedback regarding this training program. Only 15 minutes I think will take to